episode, we'll talk about why all books of the Bible are not created equally and how that should determine how you read them. Stay tuned to find out more. Hey Bibsy Squad, welcome to another episode of Biblically Serious, where we're all about understanding the Bible and owning our faith. And in today's episode, we talk about how all books aren't created equally. When we refer to the Bible, we normally categorize it as one book, but in reality, it's a small library or a collection of 66 books written by various authors over 16 centuries. Just as non-religious texts are written in a variety of genres, think action, nonfiction, drama, poetry, and the list kind of goes on. The same is true of the Bible. So understanding what literary genre you're reading is going to help you better understand the meaning and the context of the text. And just a quick side note before we get started, these are the major literary genres. So there's obviously other subgenres that can exist within a book, and also some books can be a fusion of two or more genres. But for the sake of keeping this video concise, we're only going to stay to the 7 major genres. First up is the law. The law includes books from Exodus to Deuteronomy, and the purpose of the law is to express God's sovereign will over government, social responsibility, priestly duties, etc. These legal materials and commands are primarily found in the first 5 books of the Old Testament. So understanding Hebrew customs, manners, and knowledge of things that are happening during that time is going to greatly equip you to understanding the text here. Next up is history. History includes books like Genesis, Exodus, Joshua. Almost every book of the Bible contains some sort of history, whether it's through stories or epics. This genre is pretty straightforward because it deals with things that are universal to the human experience. So understanding secular history is going to help you have a more robust interpretation of these books, because the Bible really does speak to and align with a lot of secular history. Narratives includes books like Esther, Ruth, and Jonah, and they're normally characterized by continuous action that includes main characters, a plot, settings, and like we said earlier, narratives can be a blend of 2 genres, so it can be a blend of history and narrative, but then there are some histories that are not narratives. Genealogies, for example, are unlike narratives, but they are histories, and Esther includes both history and narrative. Poetry includes books like Psalms, Song of Solomon, and Lamentations. These books have rhythmic prose, parallelism, metaphors. Poetry primarily appeals to our emotions rather than building complex arguments. Since poetry doesn't always translate perfectly back into English, sometimes we lose some of the musical or rhythmic flow of these books. Still, you'll see idioms, comparisons, and refrains similar to what you see into modern day music. The wisdom books includes books like Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, and these books are filled with principles and sayings that aim to teach the meaning of life. This genre is all about practical theology. So how can you live godly in a very complicated world? Authors write with a lot of metaphors and poetic expression in this genre, so keep that in mind as you are trying to understand and apply the text. Prophecy. This includes the major as well as the minor prophets and apocalyptic prophecy. The prophetic writings include predictions of future events, warnings of upcoming judgment, and an overview of God's plan for Israel. Apocalyptic literature, though, is in Revelations and Daniel's, and that includes a specific form of prophecy, largely involving symbols, imagery, and predictive destruction. The difference between prophecy and apocalyptic prophecy is that in prophecy, the expectation is that God will work within human history to accomplish his purpose for humanity. In apocalyptic prophecy, humanity has become so contaminated with sin and evil that it is unredeemable, at least by human methods. The last genre we'll cover is the epistles. This includes Romans to Philemon as well as James to Jude. The epistles are pretty much just letters, and they follow typical structures that we see with writing letters today or writing emails or memos. And that means that they have an opening, a greeting, a body, and a closing. It's important to understand the historical, social, and cultural context of the original recipients of this letter in order to have a clearer understanding and analysis of these letters. When we think about comparing genres and why it's important to understand what literary genre you're in, think about if you play sports and you got invited by your friends to go play basketball. You're not gonna bring like a puck and like hockey sticks with you and skates. Similarly, when you interpret the text, it's important to know, what game you're preparing for so that you can understand the rules once you play the game. You can understand if someone's cheating. Another example that stresses the importance of understanding the genre that you're going into and how that affects how you interpret, how you think about life once you leave reading or experience that form of creative is movies. So imagine you going into an action movie and you are interpreting it under the perception of a comedy. Then you may leave that film thinking it is fun and it is comical to hurt people, to smash cars, and to kind of live reckless. And it's not true. Similarly, there's a danger in going into a text and not understanding its literary genre and how that can affect your interpretation, as well as how you would apply that and understanding how that's going to shape your biblical worldview. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Biblically Serious. Do you guys have a favorite literary genre? If you do, let me know in the comments below. I hope you liked this video. If you did, be sure to like it. If you learned something new, be sure to share it, or even think about signing up for my Intro to Bible email course. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye!